Frutiger Aero is an aesthetic that dominated the early 2000s, influencing how we look back on those years and what we consider futuristic. It's a design trend built on deceit, broken promises, and outdated technology, and yet it's currently experiencing a revival with more and more people wishing to bring it back. But why? In this video, I hope to explore the complicated legacy of Frutiger Aero, what it stands for, where it comes from, and why you should care about it. My name is Juno, your local moth, and welcome to my channel where we discuss art, the internet, and how they make us feel. And today, in this installment of my aesthetic deep dive series, I want us to take a look at Frutiger Aero and why the fact that it's climbing up in popularity right now is very important. Thank you so much to my Patreons that make this channel possible. Fungus Finder, LEJBR, Super Orlok, Sashira, The Artistic Dragon, Arthur Tchaikovsky, Smiley Face Upside Down Emoji, Look, Liz Lizard, The Julita Candle, Hammer the Knot, Vanish, Nairbo, and Smorgan Borgan Dorgan. Now, relax, subscribe if you want to, and let's go back to the grassy hills and blue skies under which Frutiger Aero lies. In 1978, after spending the last couple of years working with the Environmental Protection Agency, photographer Charles O'Rear got a job at the highly esteemed science magazine National Geographic. He got assigned to photograph the happenings at Napa Valley, one of the most important wine regions in the world. And when in 1998 he was sent to photograph various other wine regions, his interest in wine photography was cemented. He and his wife published various awarded books about wine and wineries, and by the early 2000s, he had a huge catalog of stock photos of vineyards available for licensing. And that's when, in 2000, his stock photo company was approached by Microsoft. A couple years back, they licensed the rights to one of his photos, and now they wanted to have the full rights to it. That photo was, of course, the Windows XP wallpaper Bliss. Originally, the photograph was titled Bucolic Green Hills, and Charles took the photo almost by accident. He was driving out to meet his girlfriend when on the side of the Sonoma Highway, he spotted the lush green hills that had been cleared of all vines due to a devastating pest infestation.
On this particular day in January, while driving this winding little, what I call a country road, there it was. My God, the grass is perfect. It's green. The sun is out. There's some clouds. I kind of think that maybe it wasn't as perfect as when I made the photograph. It could have been no clouds. And by the time I parked, by the time I set my camera up, the clouds might have come in, because everything changed so quickly at that point. So now I get the camera ready, and here come the clouds, and I make a frame, and I crank to the next one, which we don't do in digital anymore. We just push it and it takes care of everything, right? We don't have to advance film, we don't have to crank the camera. Here comes the clouds, I'll take another one, and here comes another one, and here's another one. And now I've made 4 frames, okay, fine. I think that was pretty nice. I'm going to fold the camera up, tripod, get back in the truck, and keep going.
In this material I just played to you, Chuck speculates that the engineers at Microsoft didn't expect the photograph to have such a huge impact on the culture of the early 2000s. Regardless, the wallpaper became the most viewed photograph in history, appearing on over 1 billion screens worldwide. Everyone that ever owned a computer with Windows XP on it will for the rest of their lives remember the Bliss wallpaper, the beautifully lush green hills and intensely blue skies that marked an era.
XP is going to go away. the photograph will not be seen as much as I've seen it in the last 12 and 13 years. Do I lose sleep over that? No. I think it's had a wonderful ride. I'm just pleased to see it out there. I'm thrilled to know that people have had pleasure from looking at that, from looking at a photograph that I made.
And while Charles might not fully know why his photo was chosen over all the other ones, we, with the perspective of time, do know. It was because his photograph fully encapsulated the design principles of the time, design principles that are now known as Frutiger Aero. You can see Bliss's footprints in all Frutiger Aero images. The blues are saturated and layered, and the greens are lush and bold. Even if Windows XP and Bliss aren't part of the Frutiger Aero era, they were the precursors of this kind of design, and they laid the groundwork for what was about to come. But what was about to come? What exactly is Frutiger Aero? In the mid-2000s, Microsoft was looking for a change of pace. After some legal troubles that don't matter at all, don't worry about it, that's not any crucial context we will have to talk about later. They needed a fresh look, something that will make them win the favor of consumers worldwide. Their new Windows operating system needed to look clean and futuristic, and so the design team at Microsoft sat down and, while using the Mac OS X version as inspiration, constructed a design language that would become so influential that it would inspire multiple physical products, architecture, trends to come, and an aesthetic that we now know as Frutiger Aero. Frutiger Aero is a name coined by Sophie Lee of the CARI, or Consumer Aesthetic Research Institute, that is made up of two parts. So let's break those parts down and see what they stand for. Frutiger comes from the incredibly influential typeface designer Adrian Johann Frutiger, who is responsible for curating the way fonts are nowadays by creating many sans serif fonts. Amongst them, there was one font he named after himself, the Frutiger typeface, which is considered to be the most legible typeface in the world. It is used widely to this day, but it reached its peak popularity in older computing systems. And speaking of computing systems, Aero refers to Windows Aero, the design language I mentioned before, used in Windows Vista and Windows 7. Do you remember when the Windows borders on the pop-ups had this foggy, glassy look? That's a perfect example of Aero, which stands for authentic, energetic, reflective, and open. And the aesthetic is certainly all of those things. Frutiger Aero is breezy and light. It gives us a glimpse into what the world could be, the unique mixture of the white and clean technologically advanced structures contrasting sharply with the meticulously groomed nature that surrounds it. Frutiger's landscapes are serene yet energetic. Their maximalist design follows a certain flow, whether that be waves or a streak of overemphasized bokeh, particles or flares. These images slot together, creating a feeling of synergy and connection. With its rounded shapes and translucent borders, Aero design feels softer than they actually are, less compacted than their counterparts. Almost natural. In nature, nothing really is blocky or as angular as most modernistic designs. Nothing really has a solid color, and all things are subjected to change. In that way, Frutiger Aero's scaleomorphistic icons that are vibrant and 3D feel much more natural and alive than their nowadays super flat and one-note successors. The mix of nature and technology interacting with each other or coexisting in what seems to be a mutually beneficial relationship emphasizes that we can have both. We can have a lively and healthy environment and incredible technological growth at the same time. If we make the right decisions, we can do it. And when it comes to decisions, the design decisions were made in an effort to look appealing, yet futuristic. They were meant to present a joyful future we were all surely heading towards. So let's go back in time and take a look at what was considered futuristic 20-ish years ago. Welcome to the video intermission where before we jump into the heavy and painful conversations we need to have, we will be doing something fun and looking over all of the different kinds of Frutiger Aero, since every company that later hopped onto the trend had a slightly different approach. Starting with dark Aero, this subsection of the aesthetic has all of Frutiger's usual slickness and glossiness, but black and elegant and simplistic, which means that out of all of the aesthetics I will mention, this one is still used to this very day, even with Frutiger Aero long dead and buried. This next one is Frutiger Metro, which honestly deserves a video of its own, so if you'd like for me to talk about Frutiger Metro, let me know in the comments down below. And even if the name Frutiger Metro is unfamiliar to you, you have probably seen it before if you were a kid in the late 2000s and early 2010s, because it was everywhere, on pencil cases and school bags and toy packaging. And speaking of toy packaging, a similarly flat and colorful aesthetic also took over kid and women's products called Vector Flourish. When I saw this image, I immediately thought of Ever After High, but that might just be me. This is Helvetica Aqua. It is an aesthetic that is based on the imagery of fish and marine life. Frequently the images are dynamic, following the movement of the water. This really reminds me of something. Nostalgia is a force so strong it's almost overpowering at times. When you once again find yourself facing something of the past, something that once lay forgotten in the graveyard of your mind, a wave of warmth hits your heart, and before you know it, you reminisce of times that, all things considered, might have not been the best. When I was a young child still living in England, whenever my mother and I would go shopping, like any other child, I would go around the supermarket and gawk at the toy section and find some tasty treat that I would then attempt to convince my unmoved mother to buy for me. But something else that would also capture my attention was something that would hide in the cosmetics aisle. A bottle of soft soap with a little clownfish inside. To a little girl absolutely obsessed with nature and treasure hunting, the soft soap was like a clash of these two worlds, and every time I would go wash my hands after I managed to convince my mom to buy the slightly overpriced hand soap, I would look at the little fish stuck in a plastic bottle as if it was the most amazing thing in this entire world. So when I, as an adult, stumbled across a photo of the soap while researching for this video, I stopped dead in my tracks. Suddenly overwhelmed with nostalgia. A long-forgotten memory of standing on my tiptoes in front of the bathroom sink and reaching towards the hand soap suddenly appeared in front of my eyes. This feeling isn't exclusive just to me, as many people online express just how nostalgic Frutiger Aero is to them. And that's not surprising considering that throughout the childhoods and youth of the younger generations, Frutiger Aero was ever present. The trend was so huge that if you owned a piece of technology, chances are that it was designed following the principles of Frutiger Aero. And when you are a kid, technology, especially new technology, feels like magic. Frutiger Aero made the things that were designed according to it feel alive, from the bright lime color of the Xbox 360 dashboard to the soundtrack of the Wii sports games. All of these tiny things made the tech of the time feel all-encompassing and whimsical. Frutiger Aero not only extends the design, sound and visual effects played a huge role in establishing the aesthetic. However, around 2014, things started to change. The bubbly and rounded icons slowly started to be replaced with the boring and one-note ones, as the culture transitioned from the digital and design maximalist trends to the minimalistic super flat hell we are in to this day. The glossy textures, opulent visuals, and over-the-top design were out of style. Plainness was in. Modernistic design is simple, and simplicity in our world that is filled to the brim with things no one needs is a luxury. Beige mom forcing their toddlers into desaturated clothing, blocky, colorless, and uniform architecture, tech that's designed to look as simple as possible. All of these things are a signifier of class. Blacks, grays, and stark whites hide in plain sight an implication of luxury. But with every push, there is a pull, and for a couple of years now, Frutiger Aero has been steadily climbing up in popularity. The soft, rounded edges are making a comeback. The Frutiger Aero subreddit has over 100,000 members, and some brands have already caught on, releasing products reminiscent of the Frutiger Aero era. Even in music, we've been seeing a resurgence of rich production that includes sounds and digital instrumentation that was made popular during that era through advertisements and various jingles, with my recent favorite example being Magdalena Bay with their newest album Imaginal Disc. Across multiple forms of art and content, many people have been trying to revive Frutiger Aero from its grave. Is it just nostalgia that is causing us to return to Frutiger Aero? Is nostalgia enough to make an obsolete trend designed from the 2000s trend on TikTok? Maybe. But I don't think so. Frutiger Aero's oversaturated and bright images are what many young people as children thought the world would look like. During the early 2000s as well as 2010s, there was a lot of hope about the future and the significant technological enhancements that would make our life better. They didn't feel like a mere possibility. They felt like a guarantee. Most of the kid and animated shows of the time were heavily inspired and about the wonders of technology. This future felt secure. It was going to happen. After all, we all want everyone to be happy. We all care about the well-being of humanity and the planet, and those that care the most are, of course, the large tech companies that created this vision. Digital Dream Utopia was the old name used before Sophie Lee named Frutiger Aero. And as much as I like the new name, the old name feels more fitting. It's less slick and cool sounding. It doesn't sound like a name of an aircraft from the future, but more like a realistic descriptor. Because at the end of the day, Frutiger Aero was just a digital dream utopia, something unachievable, an optimistic outlook on a future that was and is unattainable. Thank you for watching this video till the end. Well, that is the case, unless you look a bit deeper under the surface and also have a healthy dose of cynicism running in your bloodstream. Because if you really look at what Frutiger Aero was, and you take a small step back, letting your eyes rest on the glow and vibrancy of the designs, you will quickly notice what was clear from the beginning. And that is that Frutiger Aero was always just a greenwashed corporate aesthetic that was engineered to ensure profit over anything else. As you might still remember, during the first part of this video, I very casually mentioned that during the time Windows Vista and XP were created, Microsoft was having legal troubles. And those legal troubles were brought up by the governments of the United States as well as the European Union. To make a very long and very complex issue very simple, multiple government institutions across the world have accused Microsoft of monopolizing multiple branches of the market. Microsoft has had to pay out fines worth millions of dollars and pinky promise to change their ways. And while chasing this alleged monopoly, Microsoft, despite all of their promises, continued to destroy the planet. There is a degree of poetic irony to Frutiger Aero. I think back to my childhood memory once again. I am standing in front of the bathroom sink in one of the many houses I lived in, and now, as an adult, I once more gaze at the soft soap. The orange clownfish that is stuck in the bottle now looks much less like a rare treasure and more like a dark, twisted joke. Now I think about how ironic it is to package soap into plastic bottles and then slap images of marine animals on them, while the same marine animals are actively dying out as a result of pollution. As of making this video, Microsoft has increased their CO2 emissions by 30% since 2020 due to their attempt to capitalize on the AI bubble. That goes directly against all of their promises and marketing campaigns focused on environmentalism. And obviously, this issue doesn't plague Microsoft exclusively. Multiple tech companies have been embroiled in scandals ranging from breaking the law to relying on child labor. This information makes the promises of Frutiger Aero feel like propaganda material that nowadays simply isn't needed anymore. That's because these tech companies know that since they have a monopoly, they only need to pretend to care. And this propaganda was utilized at the perfect point in time before the novelty of technology worn out. At that point, technology was fresh. It felt like an entire world of possibilities was open. Meanwhile, nowadays, the majority of people feel stuck to some degree and indulge in escapism such as nostalgia in order to survive. In the end, it turned out that these companies can still make money even if a huge chunk of their consumer base has been disillusioned with their practices. You don't actually need to enact change or do anything that actually has a positive impact. All you need to do is muddle the water enough to convince people that you care. And what better way to convince people that you are the answer to their problems than showing them exactly what they want to see? And what do the masses desire to see? A good future. During the rise of Frutiger Aero, countries across the globe were going through awful recessions. Multiple wars started breaking out, and the stability of the post-Cold War world started to feel threatened again. And technology seemed like the key to solving that uncertainty. Frutiger Aero images are clean and fresh. They trick you into believing that technology, such as the computer, this insanely complex machine, a machine that takes loads of resources to create, upkeep, and power, is the key to a utopian society. After the introduction of skeuomorphistic aesthetics in web and software design, multiple companies around the globe started using Frutiger Aero to appear futuristic, but in a safe way, in a way that the Y2K futurism couldn't exactly capture. That's why these images have such a strong impact on us. They are designed in a way that makes them look safe, yet exciting. They are clean and smooth, glossy with an occasional flare, and are not afraid to be colorful, but at the same time they stray away from the eye-straining neon colors, simply basking in the comfort of rich saturation. Blues and greens are colors that have a relaxing effect on the mind. In the end, Frutiger Aero was designed with the purpose of tricking the public into believing that these huge tech companies will bring on an era of peace and sustainability. It is a consumer aesthetic, something designed solely with the purpose of selling more products. These companies have profited from the hopes and dreams of the average person, successfully manipulating the masses into believing that they had the same goals as we all did, that they would put noble goals such as stopping slavery and fighting climate change above profit. Frutiger Aero shows a version of the future built on promises of prosperity and bliss made by corporations. Despite how I've written this final part of this video, I do not dislike Frutiger Aero. Quite the opposite, actually. I really enjoy the colorful, maximalist designs. I love anything that uses water or fish as a motive, and mostly, I love how fun Frutiger Aero is. All of it feels so bouncy and whimsical. The designs are both calming and just fun to look at. But what I do deeply dislike is what Frutiger Aero represents. The unstoppable manipulative tactics that the most powerful use to obscure their greed. So, what now? Do we just give up on the promised future of Frutiger Aero, disappointed but not surprised? No, we keep on hoping. Frutiger Aero, as an aesthetic detached from the companies that created them to sell products, is at its core an aesthetic about hope. And we need hope more than ever. Take the work of these artists and designers behind Frutiger Aero and embrace them fully, not just by buying products that are designed a specific way, but by taking care of your surroundings, looking up if your city or town organizes community trash cleanups or other initiatives like that. In order to get a future that is bright and colorful and green, we need to keep hoping and acting on that hope. There is no point in falling into the trap of despair. You still have agency. If you love the images of Frutiger Aero, then take them and act on that love. If you are able to vote for lawmakers that keep environmentalism in mind. Try to find ways to reduce the amount of plastic you use. Watch some documentaries on marine life. Your future is still very much in your hands, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Will it be as bright and safe and comfortable as Frutiger Aero promised? No. But it will be ours, and it can still be good. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end. If you'd like to support me, please consider subscribing or joining my Patreon. I am currently in a bit of a rough spot, and if you'd like to know more about what's going on, I have pinned the posts on my Patreon. It's free to read. Due to these recent events happening in my personal life, more than ever, I feel the need to thank all of you that support me and what I do. So, thank you for subscribing, leaving insightful comments, joining my Discord server and my Patreon. It means the world. Thank you so much to the Discord mobs that helped me with this video and that took part in the Draw This in Your Style and drew me as their favorite aesthetic. As always, thank you for everything. Keep your eyes peeled on the community tab of my channel for some announcements coming very soon, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!